Hello, thank you for joining me today. I'm really happy to be back after a couple weeks away. I really miss talking to you and keeping you company in your craft room, in your living room, wherever you like to do your crafting. I'm kind of back to talk about the things that I like to talk about the most, and hopefully the things you like to talk about the most, which is our crafty things that we get up to with yarn and knitting and spinning. And I do have some of that to share with you. But the first thing I want to talk about is my latest finished object, which I'm wearing. This is my Petal wrap tee that I've been working on, and I checked in Ravelry. I have been working on this for a year, and although it's been a year from cast on to bind off, but I haven't been working continuously on this. I took a few breaks, especially in the winter months. I did kind of that quick cardigan project. Not a quick cardigan, but I did it quickly. I took a few months off to work on some other projects and things like that, but picked this up, and for the last couple of months I've been working really consistently on this to finish it before the weather got too warm. And I have to say, it's 92 degrees today in Portland, and I just shut my windows so that we could have kind of a quiet chat. And it's not terrible. I don't think I would be comfortable at 92 degrees no matter what I wore. But yeah, it's not too bad. I think I might actually be able to wear this all summer long because it is 100% cotton. The same thing that made this a horrible project to work on. Maybe not horrible, but knitting with cotton is not my favorite thing. So speaking of this project a little bit, a couple of things. I am really happy with this. I actually really like the wide neckline, although I will say that when I washed this, the neckline did grow quite a bit. So it's maybe a little bit wider than I would have liked, but I also know that a wide neckline is really nice in the summertime because it gives you a little bit more, a little bit more airflow around your neck. And I really hate things being really close to my neck, especially when I'm hot. So that worked out well. My sleeves are loose, and I like the length that I picked. This is nice and long, like it's not too cropped, it's not too short, it's not too long. I feel like I got the length of this right. It is a little bit more positive ease than I maybe would have liked, but I think that's partly because I chose a size 6, but when I had originally chosen the size and highlighted the size I wanted to knit, I had chosen a size 7 and highlighted the size 7 instructions throughout the pattern. But then, and then I started doing the size 6 and basically ignoring my underlines. And then when I took a break and came back to it, I started following the size 7 again. And the stitch count that I ended up with is not the stitch count of either pattern, but I think that may be contributing to why it ended up a little bit larger. And maybe another factor in that is that although I did do a really large gauge swatch for this, I probably should have put some weight on the gauge swatch. I did wash this when I washed it after I finished the project. I washed it in the washing machine and put it in the spin cycle, and I am not shy about washing in the washing machine, using spin cycle and all of that on my finished objects. But I realized in this one, the way that this was in the washing machine when it was done, and I knew it wouldn't ruin it because I had already washed the swatch like that. I even put the swatch in the dryer. I did chicken out a little bit and didn't put this in the dryer. Maybe if I had, it would have shrunken up a little bit, but I washed and dried the swatch by machine, and the swatch turned out just fine. It didn't grow very much. The gauge swatch on this and the gauge swatch on my washed swatch are not the same though. I think this gauge ended up being a little bit bigger, and I think that is because once you get the weight of the cotton garment, especially at a larger size, it responds differently. So I kind of wish I had weighted my gauge swatch in some way. I think as I wear it, it may get smaller circumference-wise and longer lengthwise because of the effects of gravity. But you know, because of the spin cycle, I think the width of this grew because of the forces, centripetal forces the on the sweater while it was in the spin cycle. But I don't regret putting it through the spin cycle at all, because this is a cotton garment and was really excited to wear it. And if I had not spun it, I think it would have taken forever to dry. So I'm really glad that I was able to get this and wear it pretty quickly. And it will probably go through the washer and dryer, because summer garments, you do need to wash more frequently, and especially because this is cotton, I'm sure the sweat and things like that are just going to absorb into it, and it's not like wool where it doesn't really smell. Cotton's going to absorb body odors and things like that, so it's going to need to be washed more often. So I knew that I wanted to wash it like I was always going to wash it, but so yeah, it's probably going to get through the washer and dryer again. And I know that, yeah, this is probably as big as it's going to get, and it might get smaller if I get the nerve up to put it through the dryer. So, okay, so on to the next thing. I have already run a lot of the projects that, my other finished objects, I should say, have already been moved from my craft room here in Hillsboro to my new craft room in Portland, where my boyfriend currently lives. So I already moved them, but I did take pictures of them before I moved them. And so I'll insert pictures of them. My other two finished objects are skeins of yarn. One of them is the Power of the Bat skein that I spun on support spindle with the removable whirl, and then plied on my e-spinner. That was plied, and I really liked the way it turned out. I ended up with, I think, about 500 yards of fingering to sport weight woolen spun yarn, and it's very soft. It's a little bit slightly sparkly. I've got some ideas for projects for that. I think maybe later on I'll have to do a little planning projects with my Handspun, because I feel like I've got a lot of projects in my queue, and a lot of them are using my my commercial yarn stash, and not too many of them are using my my Handspun yarn stash. And I did want to knit a little bit more with my Handspun this year, and I really haven't been knitting with it. So that's something I maybe should revise a little bit. And then my other finished object is this sock yarn that I spun from the green hand-dyed Cheviot comb top that my friend Rosalie dyed and gave to me. And you know, she gave it to me because she didn't like the softness of it after it was dyed. And for sock yarn, I don't really care if it's super soft. In fact, maybe a little less soft wool is a little bit better for socks, because it'll be a little harder wearing. So I do plan to make some socks with that. I have some, I actually got a sock book from my friend Karen, who got the book thinking that she might knit socks, and she tried knitting socks and did not like it. And so I may make one of the patterns out of there. There are a few patterns in there that I don't think would work well with the self-striping yarn I typically get in like my subscriptions, but I think I still want to use a special yarn, and maybe that light green yarn would be really good for showing different kind of special stitches and things like that. So stay tuned. I'm sure I will I'll post about it as I start those socks. The other and then kind of on to my works in progress. So some of the whips I have, I guess the first whip I'll talk about is the fleece that I bought at Black Sheep last year. So Black Sheep's coming upon us. Black Sheep Gathering is a mainly spinning focused fiber festival that occurs yearly in Albany, Oregon, at the Lynn County Fairgrounds. And I think it's the third or fourth weekend in June this year. And this is the 51st year they've done it. Last year I bought, and they're kind of their purpose is to celebrate natural colored wool. So I bought at my very first Black Sheep gathering last year, I bought my very first fleece, which was a Corriedale Cross fleece. It's about 4.5 pounds of wool, unwashed, from a sheep named Hilda. And I washed Hilda, I think in the late summer, early fall of last year, in many, very small batches. And throughout this winter and early spring and early summer, I've been processing it. I've been mostly combing it, and then the combing waste, or even just little bits that were harder to comb, maybe like not clear lock structure that I could like separate out into locks to put on the combs, or just shorter pieces that weren't quite second cut shortness. I just kind of used my judgment to kind of set those aside, and I ended up carding those into rollags. I weighed the comb. Okay, so I have combed or carded the entire fleece, and I've been here. I have my basket of combed top from Hilda. Hilda is very soft and very fine wool, a relatively short staple length. Because it's such a short staple length, and it was a little tippy, meaning the tips were a little bit weak, and there was just a lot of this fleece that I ended up having to throw out, just because like it had scurf, which is kind of a dandruff from sheep, so little flakes of skin flakes in the fleece, and some sections of those were fairly light, and I was able to get that out, and some sections it was so heavy it really wasn't worth dealing with, and I ended up throwing out quite a bit of wool out of this fleece. And I weighed the comb top that I had when I finished combing, and I only had about 450 grams, I think, of comb top. So and I really want to make a cardigan out of this wool, but I also I have about 200 grams of carded. Well, it's already spun. So I was spinning on my on this spindle, which is a oh man, I can never remember. It's a Grinstead spindle. I was spinning my combing waist, or carding into rollags, and then spinning the carding waist or the combing waist long draw on this spindle, and I had 4 or 5 balls of woolen spun yarn from the combing waist, and I've decided to stretch all of the wool out of this to have enough to make a cardigan, which I want to make the Come Home Again. I think that's what it's called. The Come Back Again cardigan from Andrea Mallory. I would like to make that cardigan with this wool. And I don't think even woolen spun I would have enough yardage without using that combing waist. And so I am taking my combed top, carding it into rollags and spinning it long draw, and I'm spinning it on this spindle. So that's actually what's on this spindle now, and I've actually already filled this spindle twice. I've been taking, because it's on a drop spindle, it's very easy to take on walks, and so I've actually been taking a lot more walks, which is good for my health and also good for the spindle, because I'm actually getting quite a bit of spinning done on these walks. So it's kind of a win-win, and I actually really love that I'm gonna have that story of spinning this cardigan, spinning all of the yarn for this cardigan, while I am also taking better care of myself, and kind of this expression of this cardigan is just gonna overall be an expression of self-love. And I'm really excited for the energy that's gonna go into this cardigan. So stay tuned. I'm probably gonna keep having little updates. These balls are gonna go in I've got like a little Ziploc bag, a gallon bag with these, with the balls that I have spun so far, and I'm adding these to it. Clearly, like the comb top that I turned into Rollags is a lot smoother than the combing waist that I carded into Rollags, and so I haven't, I have not, applied any of this yet. My intention is to kind of randomize the balls, and kind of just draw 2 random ones out to ply together. And then when I'm ready to start another ball, I will just draw it out of the bag. So I'm kind of want to ply these randomly together to try to make a more consistent yarn. But I definitely, I mean, not all of them are going to be some of them are still, let's just say, some of them are still going to be 2 of these comb top Rollag balls together. But I'm trying to even it out as much as I can. So stay tuned for that. I will keep updating you. This is a very long-term project. I'm hoping to get a little bit of spinning done every day as I go on these walks, especially through the summertime when it's not raining every day. I'll be able to, walk and spindle at the same time, multitask. My other work in progress is another spindle project, which I actually have in my purse right now. I'm back. So I was telling one of my spinning friends, I think I'm a faster spinner on spindles now because I always have them with me, and you can only spin on your wheel when you're at your wheel, but and kind of like sedentary and at home, and especially like spring and summer, like you can always have a spindle with you. So it's kind of nice to just say like, hey, here's my project that I am gonna always have with me. And I was staying with my I spent Friday with my boyfriend helping him out around the house with some things. Actually took the day off of work to help him with some of the things that he's been working on. And he lives really close to a really nice park, and he had some errands to run, and while he was out running his errands, I took the spindle out and actually spun probably close to the amount of fiber that you see attached here. I spun about this amount of fiber just on that like 30-minute walk. And I don't know, there's something about going for a walk that I feel like I spin faster or something. I got quite a bit of spinning done, and it may have just been that like, hey, I was occupied and the time felt like it went faster. And I'm not really like walking for distance or time or anything like that. It's just, it makes the spinning go faster, it makes the walking go faster, everything's faster when you're spinning. But this is the October Sky Targhee top that I bought at Oregon Flock and Fiber. This is about, so I already spun up about a third of it, and I spun it as a chain ply, and then this is another third of it that I am spinning into singles. The other third, I'm also going to spin into singles, but I think I'm going to divide it, and I'm going to end up with leftover singles this way, but I think I'm going to divide it into half, and then divide half of that even more, and do kind of a gradient, not a gradient, a fractal 3-ply with this single and then the other 2 singles that I spin from the last bit of braid. I don't remember how I originally split the braid, which is why I'm saying like, well, I don't know how I split this braid, so I'm just going to split it again and pretend like it was a 3-ply. So yeah, anyway, I want to do a kind of a 3-ply 2 ways. I've already got a chain ply skein, so now I just want to make a fractal 3-ply. And I think this will do really well as a fractal 3-ply because there's not too many colors in it, and they really work well together, where I don't think any of these colors against each other is going to look too muddy. Maybe the orange against the blue a little bit, but I think the orange and the blue are kind of shades that might still work okay together, even though orange and blue are complementary. Just the shade of blue and the shade of orange, I think they may still work okay together. But anyway, that's what's happening with that. And the other reason I'm spinning it kind of just as singles instead of chain plying it, or doing ply on the fly at least, is that I didn't really enjoy the ply on the fly. I think I do. So I do enjoy ply on the fly. I like that you get a balanced yarn because you're using kind of your lively, energetic singles that haven't been rested, and so you can check for balance immediately, right as you ply. But the downside of it is I feel like you kind of interrupt your process and your flow a little bit, and so it's not very good for like taking your spindle out on a walk. So it's more of a, hey, I'm gonna sit and spin and really focus on this, and not necessarily, hey, I'm gonna do this while I'm chatting with someone. Well, I could do it while I'm chatting with someone, but it's definitely a sit down and think about it, and not a go for a walk and listen to an audiobook, and also I'm going to do this complex spinning task. So yeah, I'm at least not at the point in my spinning where I can do ply on the fly while I'm walking. So I can spin singles while I'm walking, just not ply on the fly. So singles. And then also, like, your 3-ply ends up a lot more even if you just ply it from 3 singles rather than from 1 single. You have a lot more chance of averaging out the twist and the grist of your singles so that the overall yarn is more consistent. Next whip is another project that's not next to me on the couch. I'm gonna go run and get it. It's over by the other chair. This is another spindle project. This is my work spindle. This is my Jenkins Chickadee, and on my Jenkins Chickadee, I am spinning a kind of lace weight silk. This is Tussa silk that's been hand dyed by Dicentra Designs, and I'm spinning this as worsted as I possibly can, and I'm actually taking the time to wrap the cop really nicely on this one because it's fun, and because I'm not usually walking while I am spinning on this. I am usually in work meetings while I am spinning on this. So if I'm in a work meeting and like at my desk, yeah, especially with the camera off, I am probably spinning. There's a few meetings that I go to where it's kind of a report out meeting and I have to wait for other people to speak, and then I give an update, and while I'm waiting my turn to give my update, I sit and spin and I listen to the rest of the meeting. Or and actually sometimes when I am talking in meetings and I don't have to like show my screen and like click with the mouse, I will spin. It really helps me focus. I feel like I remember the meeting better, and I'm able to keep calm and not be nervous about what I might say. I listen better. It's kind of a nice little fidget toy to have in meetings, and I really only use it with the camera off because although it does help my focus and helps me listen better, other people may not see it as me listening better, and I don't want to give the impression that I'm not listening even if I am listening. So I use this kind of only as a tool while I'm not on camera, but I do really like spinning in meetings. So yeah, and I keep my smaller Jenkins spindles with the fiber in cleaned out Talenti containers, like from the ice cream. Yeah, I saw this on the Jenkins Ravelry group and I just thought it was a brilliant idea. I will say, Wanda Jenkins recommends that you take the shaft out of the spindle before you store it like this. I usually don't. I usually don't. I think that is probably a good idea, but I don't, yeah, I don't do it. But I have learned that I need to put the shaft down into the fiber like this instead of putting it up. Um, as you may be able to tell, my shaft is a little bit chipped at the tip. And that is actually because I stored it upright, and the lid came down kind of hard on the tip and broke off the tip one time. It still works just fine. It still works fine, but it's not perfect anymore. And that happened because I stored it with the shaft in facing up. I have not run into any issues storing it with the shaft in, as long as it's facing down into the nest of fiber that's in the container. Granted, I am not like tossing this around and doing crazy things with the container. I wouldn't ship it like this. Usually this is just sitting on my desk, or it's in my backpack coming just to and from work to refill the container with fiber. But yeah, that's my tip if you want to do something similar with your spindles for transport. And then okay, so I have cast on 2 new knitting projects. The first one I want to talk about is my Moon Crush pullover, which I think I have mentioned before on here that I planned to make one. And I may have even mentioned that that was my next summer project that I was really looking forward to. I have my Moon Crush pullover stored in my Atelier Nekazuki project bag that I bought in Canmore at my retreat during the marketplace. I really love this bag. I bought this bag to match these scissors that I bought there, which are little, it looks like a cat paw, and then it's scissors inside. Very cute. Kind of my favorite thing about the bag is these like cheap little scissors, but yeah, you know, whatever. We like our cute things. So this is the project so far. So putting a picture of what the, actually I don't know which side, whichever side has more room, that's the side I'm going to put it on. So I'll put a picture up of what the sweater, kind of final sweater is going to look like. I am doing it in these 3 colors of yarn. This is from Sea Change Fibers in their base Shoreline Sport, which is 25% linen, 25% silk, and 50% Rambouillet wool. Big fan. And yeah, this is my project so far. This is how far I am. This is an intarsia sweater that is knit bottom up in pieces and seamed. And I may have a weird way of looking at this, but I actually really like knitting flat, and I like it more than I thought I would like it. I think what it is it's kind of like knitting sleeves, in that you see your progress a lot faster, and especially since I'm knitting plus size garments. I think this is a 54 inch. Yeah, I think I'm knitting this with a 54 inch bust size. I'm doing a size 6 in this pattern. And so it's moving a lot faster than a size 56 bust would, because it's half the circumference that I'm knitting right now. And I can see it, I can see it coming together a lot, like twice as fast. And I also don't mind purling. Yeah, I said it. Don't love purling, but I don't mind purling. I don't mind purling as much as I mind stockinette in the round endlessly doing the same stitch over and over again. Because at least when you're purling, you can look forward to the next row being something different. And the intarsia is also kind of keeping me occupied. But before I started this project, I knit 3 I knit more than 3 swatches, but I think I knit 4 or 5 swatches, but I kept 3 of my swatches. So the first swatch I knit was this one, which is serving a few purposes. This is not a gauge swatch. I did want a fairly large swatch, but I knew that this would not be good as a gauge swatch. The purpose of this swatch was to see the 3 colors together and to see, well, am I sure that this is something that will look good on me? Is this something that I want to wear on my body? How does this look? So that was kind of the, and actually this is upside down because this is actually the top. The green is towards the top. So I wanted to see how these 3 colors would look on me, and I wanted to see how they check that they look good together with this pattern. And this is going to be the placement of the 3 colors in the actual sweater. And this pattern, or this design, was actually taken from one of the charts in the pattern itself. So yeah, I basically knit the pattern. I had also never done knit intarsia before, so I wanted to practice the technique. This was also kind of a secret way of testing out the bind off. So this was just a standard bind off, and actually surprisingly, I thought it would be maybe too cinched up. It actually, looks fine to me. So I might actually just use a standard bind off for this. And then I use a long tail cast on, and I did not like how the long tail cast on, or at least the way I did the long tail cast on, I did not like how it behaved with the intarsia. And so so I decided that I would also swatch to find my favorite cast on and bind off. So I didn't need a very big swatch for that. So I think this is, don't remember if this is 10 or 20 stitches, but I did not cast on very much. It may have just, I think it might be 20 stitches. So I cast on just a few stitches and did I think this was a cable cast on that I did. Yeah, so I tried a cabled cast on. Also was not a big fan of that. And the cast on I ended up using for my project was a tubular cast on. Maybe this is, just kidding. No, I think this was a tubular. Yeah, this is definitely a tubular cast on. So yeah, I did this is a tubular cast on. I ended up doing this is a tubular cast on where this is what I ended up liking the most. So that I did a swatch that I ended up frogging, which was not a tubular cast on. It was the cable cast on, and it was fine. It was good for intarsia. I wasn't a big fan of the way I did it. There was kind of a knot in the middle that I didn't like, and I really like how I like how a tubular cast on looks. I just decided like this is gonna save all of the problems with this, and so I just did the tubular cast on for mine, and I like it. I think it might be a little bit. The only concern I have is that it might be a little bit too stretchy, but worst case scenario with the tubular cast on is you can thread elastic through it and cinch it, and then it fixes that problem already. So I'm not terribly concerned about it, and we'll see when I'm done how it turns out, but looks fine so far. It cinches in a little bit. The ribbing cinches in a little bit from the rest of the pattern anyway, so I think it's going to be just fine. And then the last gauge swatch I made was the gauge swatch, which is a 6 inch by 6 inch square, and I hit my stitch gauge exactly. It's 22 stitches. My row gauge, the pattern row gauge, was 32 rows per 4 inches, and mine was 34 rows per 4 inches, meaning that my row gauge, I need to actually knit a few more rows to get the same length. And so I went into the pattern, and everywhere where it called out a distance, like a kind of how many rows you're supposed to go to get to a certain length, or like, hey, do this for so many rows. I just added that percentage. So I took 32, let's see, 34 divided by 32. And then I multiplied that times whatever the number of rows were, and got my new number of rows. So I think I was supposed to knit 30 or 60, 64 rows for the bottom of the from the ribbing, and instead of those 64, I'm going to go 68, and that will give me the length that the pattern calls for. And then the other thing I forgot to mention is, one of the things I'm doing with this pattern is I am altering it to have short sleeves instead of long sleeves. That's a very minor alteration. I think I am going to, instead of finishing the sleeves with ribbing, I think I'm going to finish it with a I-cord bind off. And then the other thing, it's not really an alteration, but the picture of the pattern is a cropped version, and I'm doing the full length version, but that's actually written into the pattern. There's a cropped and a full length instructions in the pattern. Cropping the sleeves is not a big deal because both of the sleeves are single color. There's no intarsia pattern to go work out or anything like that. So pretty minor alterations. And I'm also doing the scoop neck version, which I think I'm even more confident to do, because knowing that my row gauge is a little bit smaller than the row gauge of the pattern, I'm actually not going to alter anything up in the neck shaping, and that actually will probably serve to make it a little bit higher than it's supposed to be. So, it's a very deep scoop in the pattern, so I'm not worried about it being up against my neck by being a little bit kind of shorter this way, like having this cut higher. I think that is actually probably going to be a good thing. But yeah, those are my plans for that sweater. I am excited to finish this. My goal is to finish it by the time I go to Italy in September. Although it would be really nice. Pie in the sky goal is to have it done by flock and have this be my flock along summer knit for flock in August up in Seattle. I'm gonna take a sip from my drink. I've just got a little mocktail here. It's a little bit of orange pineapple juice with lime seltzer on top, and it's really hitting the spot on this super, super hot day. My only other whip, I cast this on while I was waiting for my swatches for the Moon Crush pullover to dry. This is my lacy linen snood. This is a pattern by Sarah Thornett for Rowan, and I'm using Rowan Creative Linen for this. I'll put a picture of the kind of finished object pattern. This is a really fun lace pattern. It's pretty easy. There's not any like complicated stitches. The only kind of negative I'll say about this pattern is it's a little bit hard for me to follow. If you like charts, this is not charted. This is all written out, and I definitely prefer a chart rather than a written out pattern. In fact, I think I may sit down. Oh, I'm showing you the wrong side. In fact, I think I might sit down and write out the written pattern so that it's a little bit easier for me to follow. And it's kind of, yeah, the written out pattern is just not as, the written out patterns in general are just not super easy for me to follow. It's a little harder to read your knitting as well when you don't know kind of what to expect underneath the stitch you're about to make. So it's been a little bit harder to kind of catch mistakes, and I've usually figured out I've made a mistake even like 2 rows like above where I made the mistake, where like maybe I missed a yarn over And then I'm ending up with extra stitches, and I'm counting back and I'm saying, oh, well, why do I have these extra stitches at the end? Is it because I messed up the pattern in this row, or did I mess up the pattern 2 rows ago? And then I have to tink back or rip back and then reknit it. And I've had to reknit probably 4 or 5, not 4 or 5 rows, but probably 4 or 5 like pairs of rows, like right side, wrong side, just because of mistakes like that I just can't catch right away because it's a written out pattern rather than a charted pattern. So that's my only gripe about the pattern, but it's a free pattern, so I really can't complain. And I found the pattern because I was gifted a skein of this yarn at one of my knitting groups, not by Rowan, unfortunately, but by a friend in one of my knitting groups. We did a yarn exchange around the holidays, and this is the yarn I got. And it was perfect because it's a summer yarn, and I don't usually buy summer yarns for myself just out of the blue. And I don't think I would have chosen a white yarn, but I think that this will be a great summer like accessory. Also plan to bring this on the cruise as kind of a knitwear that won't take up a lot of space in my luggage and that won't be too hot to wear in Italy in September. So yeah, so those are my finished objects. Those are my whips. That's kind of all I've been working on as far as my own projects. But what I've actually been the most busy with is Spinning Guild activities, particularly my Sheep to Shawl team, A Sheep at the Wheel. This is kind of the big busy season for us as a Sheep to Shawl team. I think every weekend I've had something to do with Sheep to Shawl. So right now, let's see. So maybe I'll back up. So this week, yesterday, we did basically an all-day run through of the Black Sheep Gathering competition. I won't say too much about it because we are competing, and there's 4 other teams we'll be competing against. Well, there's 3 other teams outside of my guild that we'll be competing with. 2 of the teams are actually from my guild, and both teams practiced in our team captain's house yesterday. One in the living room and one in the family room. So we had 2 4-shaft looms set up in the house. We had 8 spinning wheels and 2 drum carters, and it was really fun, but a little bit chaotic. Definitely hard to kind of walk around the house. I was thinking, man, fire alarm gets thrown, how are we going to get out of here? We would have gotten out okay, but it was really kind of an interesting experience. Yeah, we learned a lot. I think my particular team, we learned that we did not like the fleece that we chose, and the fleece that we chose was beautiful. It's a beautiful fleece, and it was very, very soft, but it just wasn't well suited to drum carding. We'll just leave it at that. It was very neppy after it was drum carded, and the person doing our drum carding is very talented and very good at it, and it was a lot less neppy than I thought it would be for a fine fleece. Going through a drum carder, it wasn't as neppy as you would expect it, but having to deal with the neps was very distracting from consistency, and the 3 spinners, myself included, all 3 of us struggled with consistency issues pretty much the entire kind of event or practice run through. Our plier was started out telling me like, oh, you've got some thin sections, and then she said, no, just kidding, you have some thick sections. And then she said, oh, actually, everyone, you all have thick and thin sections. And it really threw us off. And so we have some things we want to do differently for the competition. The person that was weaving also was weaving for the first time on their loom, so they learned a lot. We're going to select a new fleece for this in our next meeting, and one that we know will card better on a drum carder. So it was a good lesson, and it was a lot of fun, but we were all just exhausted. One of the other spinners and I drove down to Canby for the rehearsal, or the dress rehearsal together. And we were both really tired on the way. We were both talking about how tired we were on the way home, partially because it was a very hot weekend. They had their air conditioning on, but it was hot outside kind of coming in. And when we first got there, we just had kind of the doors and windows open and no air conditioning on. So once we realized it was warming up, it took, with all the people in there, it took a little bit of time for the air conditioning to actually get things cool. So we were a little bit hot, I think, at the beginning too. And that probably contributed to how tired we were. And then last weekend we did a sheep to shawl meeting, not necessarily the competitive team, we just had a sheep to shawl meeting. And we had that meeting at Alpacas of Oregon, out in Sherwood, Oregon, which is a very cute alpaca farm that you can actually go tour. And it's owned by a member of my spinning guild. And they were doing their shearings that day. I'll maybe insert a little bit of footage while I'm chatting about it, but they had a brand new baby alpaca, and they had sheared all their entire flock. I guess you call it a flock of alpacas, or pack of alpacas. I don't remember what they call a herd of alpacas. Anyway, they had sheared their whole flock of alpacas, and that day, and I ended up taking a chocolate brown fleece or blanket home with me. A blanket is just what they call an alpaca fleece, or the equivalent of a fleece on an alpaca. It's called a blanket. I keep calling it an alpaca fleece though, because I think a lot of people outside of the spinning world and outside of kind of alpacas in general may recognize fleece as a term of, all the hair off of an animal or all of the wool off of an animal, and not necessarily blanket as kind of an unprocessed animal product. They think maybe of a blanket as something you've already not only spun but also woven or knit or crocheted or something like that. Like what's behind me as a blanket, not a bag of fiber as a blanket. And then let's see. And then the week before that, we had, it was either the week before that or maybe 2 weeks before that, we had a demonstration at Fat Lamb in Scio. And that was a really fun demonstration. I was the plier for that demonstration, and kind of the highlight of it was we were really excited to be there, and there were a lot of people that showed up. Since it wasn't a competition, we weren't limited in how many people could spin for the event. And we ended up having, I think, 9 people show up for the demonstration, and I think 4 or 5 of them were spinners. And we ended up spinning the entire fleece that we had brought with us. And we had a lot of leftover yarn after we finished the shawl. And I really love the shawl and how it turned out. I think I can put the picture of the shawl here too, with the people who spun it. Yeah. So, thanks for sitting with me and listening to me chat about the things I've been up to. What have you all been up to? Have any good projects you're working on? Anyone else going to Flock that I can say hi to? Anyone else going to Black Sheep that I can say hi to? If you are going to Black Sheep Gathering, you won't be able to stop by and say hi at the Sheep to Shawl, but if you wanted to see my Sheep to Shawl team, or all 5 of the Sheep to Shawl team compete, we'll be competing Saturday morning at Black Sheep Gathering, and I encourage you all to go. It's a free event to get in. They usually have, in addition to that, they've got a kind of a fiber arts show. They've got a fleece show. They have sheep and goats, and usually they've got sheepdog demonstrations as well. Lots and lots of good stuff at Black Sheep Gathering, and also really good spinning classes. I think of all of the events that I go to in a year, Black Sheep Gathering has the best spinning classes. I think it may even be maybe a toss-up between Black Sheep Gathering and Red Alder for the spinning classes. My favorite spinning classes all year. And yeah, so that's that. I hope you all have a great week, and I hope you get to play. Have a great one. Bye.